Right. Welcome, fellow Toastmasters and guests. This meeting of online presenters has now begun. Guests, please note that in order to become a member of our club, you must be current or a former active member of Toastmasters International and have completed at least 6 speeches from either the traditional or Pathways programs, or you must have substantial relevant presentation experience that you demonstrate in 3 to 5 minute speech delivered during on our club meeting. All requests for membership are subject to board approval. If you have not already done so, please change your panel to ensure it shows your name and role if you have one. Right-click and select Rename to do so. We have members and often guests from many countries throughout the world. Thus, as a professional organization, we ask that you please be aware of language or word usage that may be considered offensive or otherwise insensitive due to cultural differences. Please note that we will be recording this meeting. Your video audio contributions may be used for our club marketing purposes. Please mute your microphone when you're not speaking. Also, please avoid using chat during the speaker's presentations. And today's theme of the evening, Unity in Diversity. And please welcome our club president, Nick Lahani.
Thank you very much, Andre. Is everybody ready to start? Well, let's kick it off with a little bit of music. I'm excited, are you? I want you to move your hands, move your face, move anything that you want to. Well, that was in aid of Saturday. What's happening on Saturday? We have the virtual Toastmasters conference. There are 6 clubs, 240 members, 50 countries. Just count them all. You can come for 1 hour or you can come for all 8. It's up to you. Most of you should be able to catch some of it, apart from Graham, who's going to be sound asleep in his bed. I'm sorry, Graham. Next time, okay? Now, just sign up. Somebody's going to put a link in the chat. Come along, sign up, and come and stay as long as you want. More than welcome. 5 world-class speakers, 2 world-class contests. What have you got on? Are you washing your hair? Now, we're going to have a great meeting today, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome today's Toastmaster of the evening. Please give a very, very warm welcome for Sai Kishore Raju.
Hello, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on whichever part of the world you are. And that reminds me that in our club, we have people from 5 different continents joining in. Just look at this beautiful piece of sphere, the globe. If we look at it closely, here is North America, and most of us are in different parts of America. But America itself is almost as big as the continent of Europe, from where our president, Nick Lahani, is from. And then we have someone from Australia, DTM Graham Keynes, someone from Mauritius, DTM Krishn Ramcharan. With this diversity, you know what happens? What happens is that 10 digits, 608-275-8956. Does anyone know what this means? Those 10 digits are the 10 digits for the address of this Zoom meeting. And those 10 digits bring all of us together. Kudos to Zoom, kudos to the world of internet and the world of World Wide Web. It's so awesome that we transcend time, literally. I speak in November, and DTM Graham Keynes hears in December. DTM Graham, do you hear that? How?
The future is calling.
Yeah, I hope December is good. With that being said, the theme of the day is unity in diversity. And I would like all of you to take a moment at all your screens and just look at all those 30 people in your screen from 30 different places. How beautiful it is to connect with each and every one of us. With that being said, let me dive into the meeting. Again, by various people from various different places. Our meeting today has 3 segments. For the benefit of the guests, I would like to say the 3 segments. The first one is that of the prepared speeches, where we have 3 amazing speeches. The second segment is that of table topics, where people are given random topics or I would say, random people are given topics related to the theme by our table topics master. And then the third segment is that of the evaluation of the speeches that were given in segment 1. With these 3 segments, we have a few of us playing the roles of people facilitating this meeting. For that, I would like to call on the first role player for today, our timer, DTM Lou Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster of the day. As timer, my job is to make sure that all of our speakers stay on time, both the prepared speeches, the table topic participants, the evaluators, and the role reporters at the end of the meeting. All of the times vary, and I'll be happy to share what those different time segments are at the beginning of each segment. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, DTM VPM Lou. Next, we'd like to call on the R counter for the day, Toastmaster Lucas Kalafel.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. My responsibility as the all counter is to listen to the common catchwords that we use in everyday speech. I'll be listening carefully throughout the entire meeting and provide a report to everyone towards the end. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much. Next, to introduce his role as well as to introduce the word of the day, we have our grammarian, distinguished Toastmaster, Graham Keynes.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, I will have 2 roles tonight. One is to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly in our use of grammar, the spoken word. And I will be looking for flights as well as for dive bombs. But the other thing I'll be doing is looking for the use of the word. And the word of the day is unanimity. It's a noun, the meaning agreement by all the people involved or undivided opinion. Words with similar meanings are agreement and consensus, although anybody who's done the Effective Coaching Level 3 project Reaching Consensus will know that consensus does not necessarily mean unanimity. But unanimity is what we're going to be looking for today. The classroom had complete unanimity in regards to not wanting to do any homework that day. Well, there's a surprise. I encourage you to use the word unanimity, or the more commonly used form, unanimous, at some stage during today's meeting. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, DTM Graham. Next, we'd like to call on the watcher, Toastmaster Roxanne Hussain.
Good evening, everyone. I am Roxanne. As the watcher, I am going to be looking for things like your framing within the frame. I'm going to be looking for lighting. I'm going to be looking for your use of backgrounds. And it would be nice to have unanimity in our background choosing, such as the VCon or the theme, but it's not necessary. But I will be making note of anything that might be distracting or anything that might be particularly outstanding. Thank you, Toastmaster.
Thank you, Toastmaster Roxanne. Next role player is a chat monitor for the day, DTM Natasha Van Alisen.
Thank you, and good evening, fellow Toastmasters and Mr. Toastmaster. I am the chat monitor this evening, and I am going to facilitate the back channel communications through the chat function. And I will be looking for highlights, for instance, posting links, humorous information, something that really stood out tonight. And I will be watching you, and I will be posting. And if you need me to post something for you, just simply send me a private chat and I will do so. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, DTM Natasha. Our final role player for the day is the vote counter, and it is going to be DTM Jim Barber.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. As the vote counter this evening, actually my role consists of 3 parts. 1, I will count the votes that you send to me by private chat. You can send them to everybody, but then you're going to lose the advantage of having a private vote. The second part of my role is to handle the payments that anybody, any of the participants might wish to make, so that we'll have a recount, a change, a retally, or anything like that in our votes. And third, after all, we have come to a unanimous consent as to the tallies. I will give a report at the end of the meeting. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, DTM Jim Barber. Now we move into our first segment, the prepared speeches segment. Moving into the first speech, speaker number 1 is going to be Distinguished Toastmaster Pamela Benjamin, giving her speech from the path Visionary Communication Level 3, Increasing Knowledge, Creating effective visual aids. Her evaluator would be Toastmaster Andrew Smolenko. Distinguished Toastmaster Pamela, all the very best.
Creating visual aids. Could I have a moment and go as the 3rd speaker? I'm having a problem with my communication right now. Can you make me the 3rd speaker?
Sure.
Thanks.
Sure, DTM Pamela. Now, speaker number 1 is actually going to be Toastmaster Dr. Emily Thompson. She's going to give her speech from the path Presentation Mastery, Level 1, Mastering Fundamentals. Dr. Emily Thompson is a professor at a community college in Michigan, in the United States. She was recently granted a sabbatical, or 1 semester independent learning experience from teaching. This is her report to the Board of Trustees on her sabbatical during the COVID pandemic. Her evaluator for today is going to be Toastmaster Elizanne Warren Russell. Dr. Emily Thompson, sabbatical presentation. Dr. Emily Thompson, the stage is yours.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests. Today, I'd like to speak about my sabbatical experience, and I'm reporting to you here from the student food forest, or at least that's what's behind me in my picture. I'd like to share my slides with you. My full topic is about climate change, resilience, and hope, and that was not what I started out doing for my sabbatical. My sabbatical, you might think, was easygoing, and you might think that I was on vacation, because a sabbatical is where you take a break from your regular duties. But as you can see by the road before me, that's what a sabbatical during COVID was like. It had its ups and it had its downs. In fact, it can be very well described by this meme, if you follow memes. On the left is what my friends thought I'd do. In the middle is what my husband thought we would do on my sabbatical, what my family thought I'd do, what my boss thought I'd do, what I thought I'd do, and what I ended up doing. So the trip to Iceland was out, and sitting in the kitchen learning things was in. I can tell you about a couple of the things that I did. There isn't time for all of it. I served as a carbon neutrality extern, which is a lot like being an intern, except you're older. I was basically the extern for the City of Ann Arbor Department of Sustainability, and I started right at the beginning of the pandemic. I got to work with really dedicated, innovative, hardworking people who get stuff done working on climate change and trying to prevent it from happening and trying to get our city to enact legislation. My boss turned out to be my daughter, and so that was fun. We have collaborated a number of times on climate change activities. She was in charge of community engagement and finding out what the people of Ann Arbor and nearby cities were willing to work on to prevent climate change and to adapt to climate change. And we worked together on that for a few short months. By the end of March, Ann Arbor Sustainability Office did unveil a $1 billion plan to go carbon neutral, a very ambitious plan to speed it up by 20 years. The original plan was for 2050, and this was 20 years faster. Much to my great astonishment and delight, this was passed in June, and the decision was unanimous. It was passed in a Zoom meeting, and people sure didn't know how to talk on Zoom. They should have come to Toastmasters. From this, I learned that humans are resilient when we're talking about climate change, and there is hope for the future. The second thing that I have time to tell you about is I earned a certificate on communicating climate change from the Yale School of Public Health. And just like this tick waiting for its next blood meal, I was just always waiting for the next class to begin. It was a fabulous set of courses. Here they are, one on climate change science, one on the brand new field of adaptation science, or how are we going to get human beings to adapt to higher temperatures, and then one on communicating climate change. And there it is, that new hot class on the new hot topic out there, adaptation science. In order to study adaptation science, I was asked to investigate which are the top local health threats due to climate change in my exact region. Our climate health threats are different than other areas. The city of Ann Arbor, city of Detroit, and state of Michigan have identified extreme heat, flooding, and increased air pollution as the top three. And in addition, you see two more: vector-borne disease and mental health issues. Talking about increased air pollution, we're talking about three aspects of air pollution: increased ozone, little fine particulates that are called PM 2.5 because they're 2.5 microns in size, and they stick in your lungs. And then also increased pollen. And we're quite concerned about increased pollen because increased temperature means more ragweed, which means more ragweed pollen. And these increased air pollution overall leads to higher asthma, greater allergies, and cardiovascular disease, including both suffering or morbidity, and then death, which is mortality. In terms of adaptation science, there are ways to adapt people so that they have less suffering and less death. And this includes a better diet, having more vitamins, a more vitamin high diet, including eating more fruits and vegetables. So as part of my plan, I proposed and hope someday to enact starting a farmers market at the college to help our lower income people and all the people around us eat better, to help them breathe better. And the campaign is Eat Better, Breathe Better. A co-benefit is that people will die less of coronavirus if they have better nutrition. So it can decrease deaths due to coronavirus. I learned from this that cities and states are resilient and can bounce back from stresses of climate change, and there is hope for humankind in the future. I had some reports that I have written, including blogs, various speeches in the community, and also at the college. And these are my references for some of my references for my work that I was working on. Thank you for awarding me this fine sabbatical experience, and thank you for listening to my presentation. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Dr. Emily Thompson. I think looking at that speech, hearing to that speech, each and every one of us in this audience surely wanted to take a small break from whatever we were doing and just learn as much as we can, or just enjoy as much as we can. I think the day is today, and I think every night we take a sabbatical, at least I do. That's the solace that I give myself. Going to the second speaker of the day, it's going to be Toastmaster Marianne Grady, and she is going to speak from the path Effective Coaching, Level 3 Increasing Knowledge. Focus on the positive. Tonight, in her speech titled Oh, What a Year, Marianne will endeavor to have you look at 2020 through the lens of gratitude and optimism. With all that is going on in the world, this is no easy feat. Introducing Marianne Grady with her speech, Oh, What a Year! Oh, what a year, Toastmaster Marianne Grady.
Check out this crew. This is my family and friends as they were ringing in 2020. Everyone was so excited. A whole new decade ahead of us. Who could have predicted what would unfold in the coming months? Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. Tonight, I am going to challenge you to reframe 2020 and look at it through the lens of gratitude. Now, tonight's talk isn't for those people who've lost loved ones during the pandemic, and there's been so many, or for those who are clinically depressed. Those folks need professional attention. The people I'm talking to, they're suffering from pandemic fatigue. They're tired, they're cranky, they're done with it. So let's review the last year and what we've gone through. Well, there's been the coronavirus, social distancing, people have been isolated. We've had hurricanes, furloughs, unemployment, masks, Zoom meetings. There was no toilet paper. People are working from home. There were riots, a contentious election. There was quarantines, homeschooling, and many of the businesses and places we like to go were closed. What a year! No wonder we're all stressing out. This is a lot. Take a look at this screen. How do you process all that? Well, the question I hear a lot is, when are we going to get back to normal? But what if this is it? Wearing masks? More virtual communication? Less physical contact? I don't think the world is going to stay this way, but I do believe that normal will be vastly different in the future. Seriously, are you going to run into a crowded arena or a nightclub? Are you going to continue to wear your mask? Maybe normal is what got us here in the first place. Me, I think it's time to hit the reset button for the world. We need to stop running around, start connecting more, and focus on helping dear Mother Earth heal from our throwaway lifestyle. We can cook more, we can read more, we can play and appreciate life more. Maybe the new normal is going to be a really good thing. So now if I'm going to look back at my own year through that lens of gratitude, it goes from that slide I just showed you to this. My husband and I cooked and ate delicious food. We sat out by the fire pit. We went to the beach. We went out for some magnificent sunsets. And yeah, we had Zoom meetings, but we had happy hours with friends, family meetings, and of course our Toastmaster meetings. I got to vote. I spent more time with my dogs. I went kayaking and I even saw dolphins. We went out for a lot of joy rides. My husband and I bought a new house. I enjoyed a terrific cup of coffee every single morning. I will have you know that I walked more than 1,500 miles since the beginning of the pandemic. But the best thing of all, my 5th grandchild, little Owen, was born in Florida in June. What a year! Gratitude makes a big difference when you look at things. So I know that it's not easy. And I believe we stand in unanimity in the fact that we all want to spend the holidays with our families. Some of us feel that the restrictions that are in place are taking away our rights, but in reality, they're there to protect us. Here in the United States, the government actually has a constitutional obligation to step in when public safety is at risk. Now, the weather's getting colder, people are moving inside, having more contact, and the numbers are starting to skyrocket again. And while I am optimistic about the future because there are many vaccines in the pipeline and they look to be released in the coming year, I do think that right now we need to stay vigilant and make decisions for ourselves and our family that keep safety top of mind. And in closing, whether you're having a traditional holiday, sharing a holiday over Zoom, having a socially distanced holiday, or if you're sitting alone, I hope that you will take a little time and think about all that is good in your life, because gratitude really does help in the tough times. And my prayer for you is that you and your family have a happy, healthy, and safe holiday season. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Oh, what a speech, Toastmaster Marianne. And oh, what a year this has been. And looking at all of you, I think most of you are into your professional careers now, with the exception of me, who is a student. I must tell you that 2020 is special for me, as this is the last week for me as a student. I am stepping into professional life and I have 4 more days. So I'm excited, but also a little sad that I can't take sabbaticals as a student. Now, for our third speaker, we have distinguished Toastmaster Pamela Benjamin, giving her speech from the path Visionary Communication, Level 3, Increasing Knowledge. The project is creating effective visual aids. Her evaluator would be Toastmaster Andrei Smolenko. And the title of her speech is a question. Are visual aids important? Are visual aids important? Distinguished Toastmaster Pamela, the stage is yours.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Toastmasters. Are visual aids important? Now, if we're giving a speech, they're very important. Are they important in other parts of our life? Most of my time during the week, I am tutoring. I have a private tutor, and I have quite a few families and children that I tutor. And I always hear questions about, but Miss Pam, can't we have stories with pictures? Can't we have fewer words on the page? So I'd like to ask you, fellow Toastmasters, how important are visual aids? What do they help us with? Whether you're giving a speech, whether you're reading a book, whether you're watching someone give a presentation. Is it really part of the presentation? Or is it just a minor part of the presentation? Here's some of the things that visual aids do. What do we see when we look at these visual aids? Is it something that we see in ourselves? Is it reminding us or helping us think about an idea that we're learning about? Is it causing us to learn and understand an abstract object? This is something that is very, very useful when you're talking about different types of learning, whether it be mathematics and you're looking at patterns in nature, or whether you're looking at something with grammar and you're looking for patterns in poetry or in a composition. Patterns are very, very important. So what do you see when you see your visual aid? What do they hear? What do they hear from the visual aid? Are they getting information? Are they able to take that information and apply it to something? I've started using a lot more visual aids in some of my writing. Now, it doesn't really seem to make sense for writing, but for instance, one of the visual aids I'm using are some kids' YouTube visual aids that really talk through parts of science, a lot of astronomy, biology, and chemistry per se. I've really changed some of my perspective on having different people give their stories from their parts of the universe, from their parts of expertise on how and explain different topics versus just reading it off the book, off the text in the book. And it has really caused my students to come to it and to write incredible essays. And so this has been a huge change for me, using visual aids in helping them understand different things that would be a little bit harder to grasp. The size of the universe, what it looks like at the bottom of the sea, how big a massive whale is. These are some of the things that have really impacted some of their writing. So I've been using these as learning tools. Now, I've had an ongoing discussion with my son that a lot of these visual aids, specifically gaming tools and the graphics novels and those sorts of things, they really hamper education because they cause you to have a crutch for different things. But I've really started changing some of my perspectives, specifically in writing. I've been including a lot more visual aids. Some of the things I might put in there are pictures. If the child is supposed to write about a summer trip somewhere, and I will look for different videos and pictures and ask them very poignant questions on how they can use some of those ideas and memories. And I find that I've been getting much better papers back from them. The second one is, what do they feel? Using those pictures and those images to draw emotion from people. It's not just about entertaining, but it's about getting a reaction from them so that they can take that and put that into writing. And I found that some of my students have gone from writing maybe 100 to 200 words to writing essays of 500 words. So I've really made a dramatic change on my perspective that too many pictures, too many videos is hampering a lot of our students' education. And I've been using a lot more of them. And I've gotten much more comfortable with using them in Toastmasters. So I want to challenge you, Toastmasters. Use a lot more visual aids and help others learn and understand our universe with a lot of the technology we have in our fingertips. Thank you.
Thank you, DT and Pamela, for that speech. Now, just because you asked so, here is one visual aid that I wanted to use. Credits to Zoom. And with that speech, we come to the end of the first segment of the prepared speeches. Let me now ask our timer for the information if all the speeches have qualified. Timer, DTM Louis Brown.
Yes, Mr. Toastmaster, all speakers qualified. I will put the official times in the chat box. Back to you.
Thank you so much, DTM Louis. That reminds me that I have to call on the vote counter, DTM Jim Barber, or I have to call each of you to vote to the vote counter, to, DTM Jim Barber. Please send in the votes for the best speaker as we go into the next segment. Next segment is going to be something special. I'm going to pass on the control to our VPM, not the timer, to our VPM, DTM Lou Brown, for a special segment on membership.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. For the benefit of our guests, this is a very unique portion of our program that is not held at every meeting, but which we hold during times when we have requests from folks who are not Toastmasters to be part of our club. We call it the Prospective Member Speech. It is conducted by somebody who is, again, not a Toastmaster, but does have some outside speaking experience of a professional nature. And they're looking to come to our club, to join our club, in order to further enhance their speaking ability. As Vice President of Membership, it is my honor, my duty to introduce folks who are looking to join our club via a prospective member speech. We have someone who will be conducting her speech at this very meeting. Her name is Sony Vesandani, and I hope I pronounced your last name right, Sony. Sony's speech is 3 to 5 minutes. As timer, I will show the visuals as I've announced for the other speakers in a similar fashion. Green visual at 3 minutes, yellow visual at 4 minutes, red visual at 5 minutes. And like the other speakers, Sony does have a 30-second deviation on either end. This is all for purposes of Sony requesting to join our club. So this particular speech is not part of the vote for best speaker, which Toastmaster Saki Shore has already announced that. Let's begin. Now, Sony believes in trying out new things and pushing the boundaries. She aspires to become a member of our group, our club, and is ready to present her prospective member speech to you entitled Right or Wrong, You Decide. Sony Vesandani with Right or Wrong, You Decide.
Thank you, Vice President membership. Fellow Toastmasters, sometimes in life we need to reflect on our past. There is this need to reflect on our past to see if the decisions we made in our lives were right or wrong. I personally believe that the best moment to reflect is over a cup of coffee. Dear Toastmasters, as I speak to you all today in reflection with my cup of coffee, I would like to share one such decision of my life, which honestly makes my head just spin around every time I think about it. Born to an Indian family, I'm the eldest and the only daughter. I have 4 brothers, and I was raised to be responsible and obedient. And obedient I was. I married the man of my parents' choice. How much more obedient can a daughter be? I was just 21 when my parents chose the man for me, the man who was going to look after me and who was going to be the father of my children. I asked my mother before tying the knot, what if I don't like him? And my mother says, you can always change a man if you don't like him. And therein lies the problem. A woman marries a man expecting that she can change him, but he doesn't. And a man marries a woman expecting that she will not change, and she does. Very soon in the marriage, I realized that marriage is an alliance of 2 people, one of whom never remembers birthdays and the other never forgets. My husband and I always compromised. I admit I'm wrong, and he always agreed. After 20 years of marriage, when it was time for my children to move on for their education to Canada, the only one of the children who never grew up and never moved out of the house was my husband. On a serious note, I felt lost in this marriage. If any one of you have stayed with your father or mother-in-law, you will know how draining that can be. I stayed with them for 23 years. I served them every day. I touched their feet in the morning for blessings, and I touched their feet at night to ask for forgiveness. And then I reached a point where I realized there was nothing more I could do that could make anybody happy. I couldn't make my husband more happy, or my in-laws, or even myself. And then I felt maybe I have done enough. Maybe I have fulfilled my duties. So I decided to change, to make a change, to be brave, and for once to do something for myself without thinking of pleasing anyone. That would bring me big relief. And after all, there was that famous saying, YOLO, you only live once. That must mean something, right? And then again, on the other hand, isn't life about thinking about beyond yourself and doing things for others selflessly that is supposed to make you happy? What was the right thing to do? Was it okay for me to think of myself and focus on my dreams? I wanted to pursue my studies. I wanted to travel. I wanted to have some adventures. There were things that I wanted to do in my bucket list that I couldn't have achieved, or I couldn't do if I stayed in my marriage. And so I had to push myself out of my comfort zone. And that meant going against the norms and taking big risks. It was a very difficult choice. What was the right thing to do? I chose to follow my heart. I moved to the land down under to do my master's in education. And there I met this Macedonian man and fell in love like I had never before. Fellow Toastmasters, thanks to my endless cups of coffee, I have been able to find my answer. Today, I ask you all to join me over a virtual cup of coffee and reflect on that question. Have I done the right thing or the wrong thing? Thank you, and back to you, Vice President Membership.
Thank you very much, Sony. Thank you very much for your speech. As we have no other prospective member speeches, that concludes this section of the program. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Dream Blue Brown. And now for the next segment, we are having someone named after a character from Hindu mythology. This character, called Krishna, asks a lot of intriguing questions to bring out the truth from people. And that is exactly going to be the job of TTM Krish Ramcharan, who is going to ask questions based on the theme and ask, okay, he says, table topics with a challenge. So challenging questions for intriguing everyone and bringing out the truth. And also, this is a segment where the evaluators are preparing their evaluations, which they'll give in the next segment. Over to you, TTM Krish.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Ladies and gentlemen and dear guests, yes, it's table topics time. It's the time where people are either excited or trying to turn off their video. Do not turn off your video, because irrespective of that, I'm still going to call upon you. Now, table topics is the occasion to develop the skills of impromptu speaking, where we help ourselves when we take on those questions to quickly organize and express our thoughts. And yes, it is a mini speech. Now, for the benefit of our timer, every speaker that is going to be called upon is expected to speak between 1 to 2 minutes. That means the green light is going to be at 1 minute, the amber light at 1 minute 30 seconds, and the red light at 2 minutes. And yes, this is table topics with a challenge. What does it mean, challenge? Well, with each question that I'm going to set to you, I'm going to also invite you to take on a challenge if you are able to take up that challenge. Okay? Don't worry, it's going to be fun. And here's the first question. It's a quote. I can't remember who said it. If you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. If you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And the challenge is, in your speech, to have a call to action. And this question goes to Toastmaster Deborah Carr.
Thank you. If you want to go quickly, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go with someone. Boys, that ever hit me right on those. Living and working single for many, many years, and taking the leap of faith many years ago. This, I have done both. I have plodded along in relationships, but I have also moved very, very far in the barbering career I had, because I had the most phenomenal business partner and team. So together we went. It was amazing. I couldn't get rid of my team. You know, even on vacation, they wanted to go with us and everything. But moving and and just a few hours away, and making a change after I became single. This has, things did move fast until COVID, but it's just been, I've had both facets, and it's been wonderful on both sides, because I got to experience both. One with my business partner and my team, which days truly did fly by, but we had longevity for 30 some years together. And over here, and just a few hours away, living single and letting the family run themselves. It's been priceless, and time has just flown even faster yet. So that's where I'm at. And this question, naturally, as we know, was right on the nose. Thank you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Deborah Carr. All right. And here's the next question. Diversity is about all of us. Diversity is about all of us and about us having to figure out how to walk through this world together. Diversity is about all of us and about us having to figure out how to walk through this world together. And here's your challenge. Tell a story. Tell us a story. And this question goes to none other than Toastmaster Sarah Edahan.
I believe Sarah's just said she's leaving, Mr. Topics Master.
All right, so we have the next person up on my list is Toastmaster Birgit Stallman. And amazing. I'm lucky here. I shouldn't go and play the lottery. I'm going to invite Toastmaster Chris Gold to take on this challenge. Would you like me? Birgit is back. Would you like me to repeat the question, or are you good to go?
Could you repeat the question? I've been having some issues with connectivity, so it's been in and out a little bit.
All right. Diversity is about all of us and about us having to figure out how to walk through this world together. And your challenge is to tell us a story. Over to you.
Diversity has actually been top of mind for me from when I was little. Part of that is because I moved to the States when I was 7 years old. And here I was in Southern Virginia, pretty much the only German girl in school. And I was made fun of for everything. Luckily not my accent, because when you're that young, you don't have one when you learn English. But I had a funny backpack and I had a funny eraser and I had a funny name. It was interesting because I was always very aware of different situations where there was diversity, where there was not. Later on in business, I found that because I was working in finance on a lot of manufacturing jobs, my colleagues were all men. And literally I walked into a meeting one time and as a brand new consultant, newly minted consultant, and basically the manager from the customer just took my notes and put them in front of himself as if I were a secretary. So I just took the notes and took them back and kept writing. And later on, he actually ended up giving me an award that is usually only provided within the companies. Now I find there's more openness, regardless of whether the diversity is male-female, as in that example, whether it's from national origin. And I think especially lately, we see that diversity is actually very critical. And I just went through a training course at Northwestern about change management. And it turns out that the more dynamic the environment, the more important diversity becomes to see different viewpoints. And I feel like we are seeing that more now, not just personally, but also in a business world. So diversity to me is really the key to the future. I've grown up, I've lived it. I'm seeing more acceptance of it going on these days. And hopefully we continue that trend. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Toastmaster Birgit. Thank you so much for sharing. And here's the next question. Team unity and team chemistry is by far more important than talent. Team unity and team chemistry is by far more important than challenge. And the challenge here is to be eccentric. And this question goes to Toastmaster Jim Gold.
Of course, that question comes to me. Unity and talent. That's something that Mr. Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. This is something that always I have to wonder about, because I have a wonderful team that I work with. It's a huge team. All of the voices in my head are always telling me how the business should run. But then my boss, who has an office above me, comes down and tells me that I must be crazy. What do you think? I'm not so sure. This could be a problem, but unity in the team, it never happens up here. It's just too much for me. But we have a lot of talent with the boss upstairs, so everything works for me. You have to work with what you got, you know? Mr. Table Topics Master.
Sorry. Sorry, I'm thinking about the boss upstairs, but okay. Mr. Thank you, Toastmaster Jim. Mr. Timer, do we have time for one more question or we're done?
Actually, Mr. Table Topics Master, that would be a decision of our Toastmaster of the day.
Mr. Toastmaster?
Yes, we have time for one more.
We have time for one more. All right. So here's the next question. Right. Coming together is a beginning. Staying together is progress. While working together is success. Coming together is a beginning. Staying together is progress. While working together is success. And your challenge is to use rhetorical devices, as many as you can. And this question goes to none other than Toastmaster Chris Gould.
All right.
My upstairs computer died, so I am now downstairs. So could you just put that up again? Could you just put the phrase up again? Thank you. Coming together is a beginning, staying together is progress, working together is a success. That sounds like marriage to me. Coming together is the beginning. That part is so easy. Oh, I love you. Let's go together. Let's do something. Then continuing together is progress, or staying together is progress. Not divorcing, is that progress? And then working together. Well, I will say that I have managed that actually. It took many years, but we got together, we stayed together, and we are now a team that continues to succeed together. And I highly recommend it. It's not without its compromises, but if you can make it work, it clicks and you can continue together. Mr. Topic Master.
If you can make it work, it clicks. Thank you, Toastmaster Chris Gould. On this note, this is the end of the table topic segment. For the reminder of our members who are going to be voting, do wait for the results of our timer. We have Deborah Carr, Birgit Stallman, Jim Gould, and Chris Gould as our participants. I will post them in the chat. On this note, thank you so much for having me. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, DTM Krishna. Now let me ask the timer if all the TT speakers have qualified. Oh yes, it's right in the chat. All have qualified. Please send in your votes to DTM Jim Barber. He's the vote counter for the day. And he has been counting the votes vividly for the first segment as well as the second one now. Let us move into the evaluation portion, the third segment of our meeting. And to head this, let me call upon our general evaluator, DTM Asil Boisanova.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster of the Day, Saki Shore. Fellow Toastmasters and most welcome guests, evaluation is an integral part of the Toastmasters program. The task of our evaluators is to boost speakers' confidence and provide a roadmap for getting them to where they can be better speakers. It is my pleasure to be the general evaluator and conduct the evaluation section of the meeting today. Evaluators will give their feedback on the speakers' speeches, and the rest of our wonderful evaluation team will give their reports. If we still have time until 8:57 p.m., I'll give some general feedback on the meeting. I will now call our first evaluator, who will be evaluating Pamela Benjamin's speech for a period of time 2 to 3 minutes. Please help me welcome our first evaluator, Andrei Smalenko.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Fellow Toastmasters, most welcome guests, and Pamela, what a powerful, visual, enhanced speech. You started with a question, quite interesting, intriguing question. Are visual aids important? And then slowly throughout your story, you introduce yourself by telling that you are a teacher and you teach children, and you start using visual aids more and more. And you have seen the results going up and more interest being incurred in your students. What I really like about your speech is that you're confident, that you are engaging speaker. I could see the experience and that you wanted us to learn as well, getting through your slides. What I really like, and I think we all can appreciate, the clarity and the quality of your slide presentation. It contained the clear picture and a short message, and then you told your story. The other mesmerizing part I think we all could learn from Pamela is she used what I could see, what I could hear, and what I could feel. Those three powerful things in any speech could mesmerize our attention. What I could see, interesting, well-presented slides. What I could feel, curiosity. I really wanted to learn more. And what I could hear a pleasant timbre of your voice taking me on a journey through your speech. There are few things your speech, in my view, could make even better. First, if you could tell us from the outset what you're going to tell us about, and then tell us the story, in the end, summarizing and with powerful conclusion. At the same time, I would like to see a story of one of your students in visual presentation, how his or her life could change with those visual aids. I think we all enjoy your powerful call to action. Call to action, if we could use more visual aids in our Toastmasters, that could change and help to change the world. Overall, I felt excited watching, hearing, and feeling your presentation throughout, just with few little tweaks, perhaps telling the story, and then using the more clear storyline as well. Overall, yes, we should use more visual presentation. You've inspired me. I'm sure you will inspire your students and fellow Toastmasters. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Andrei. Wonderful. Our next evaluator is, we'll be evaluating Emily Thompson's speech. Please help me welcome Alizanne Warren Russell to the stage.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Emily's focus for today was her second speech in the evaluation process. Emily, You did a great job in sharing your students' work with us. I like the way that you were proud in what they had done. Like you, most of us have that yearning to be somewhere other than where we are right now. And your trip through what should have been was unanimously felt by all of us. We were happy that you gave us that tour through the wonderful things that could have been. And we look forward to hearing you sharing when it does happen. The climate change is an idea that most of us are still unfamiliar. And your perspective on how pollen, food, and the climate change affect our health, especially in COVID, was a welcome bit of knowledge. You had a lot of slides. And because you had so many slides, I think that it distracted from your presentation because you know what you wanted to present. However, in making sure that you had the right slide, it took away a little bit from your presentation. You have accomplished your goal for today in removing your filler words based on what I counted. You did a wonderful job in just sharing your story and the collaboration that you did with your daughter. I'm sure a lot of us are a little bit jealous because we don't get to spend our time with our children as much as we would like to. Your collaboration also with the community will also be a big benefit going forward. So I think you had a great trade-off with your vacation and now building a network within your community to take your project to the next level. All in all, a great job. I enjoyed your speech, and I look forward to hearing more of your presentations as you continue in your climate change. Thank you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Elsa. Great report. Thank you. Our third evaluator will be evaluating Marianne Grady's speech. Please help me welcome Angela Heath to the stage.
Madam Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, Marianne, oh my goodness, that was an excellent speech. I mean, that speech had me leaning forward in my seat because I really was curious about where you were going. You were talking about focusing on the positive, focusing on gratitude, but what a year it was. We all went on this journey with you because you took us from the very beginning of this pandemic all the way through to today, and the pain and the disappointments that we all have shared. And the way you did it, it was so skillful, Marianne. I was in love with this speech. I mean, the story, relatable and clear. You built the story so masterfully. You know, it's unanimous. We all agree. It was a pleasure to see your PowerPoint deck. I mean, you brought us there. You took us into the story. We were living that story with you. It was bright and engaging, and your vocal variety and your expression, how you leaned in to make points, how you used your hand to draw the box. I was like, wow, you know, it was excellent. It was so far beyond where I thought you would take us to. And I love the gestures. I really loved your gestures. And I love your use of various words to describe how this year has really impacted us all. You talked about how the pandemic was skyrocketing, and we could actually see the numbers go up. You leaned in and you told us that you were done with it. And we all unanimously agreed. We're done with it too. It was done so well that I was straining my brain, trying to come up with something to suggest you do better. And I only have one suggestion for you, Marianne. I would suggest, because your presentation deck was excellent, but I would suggest that you not put a photo behind where you are sitting, because I was looking from one side to the other trying to see what's behind her seat, and it really didn't matter. So perhaps in designing your PowerPoint, just make sure you don't sit in front of maybe an image that could help tell the story. But other than that, I have nothing else to suggest. That was an excellent A-class speech. Back to you, Mr. Evaluator.
Thank you so much, Angela. Wonderful feedback. Mr. Timer, Lou Brown, would you let us know if everyone qualified?
Madam General Evaluator, all evaluators qualified, and I posted their times in the chat box.
Splendid, thank you. Please send your votes for the best evaluator to our vote counter, Jim Barber. Thank you. I will now ask for the functionaries report for a period of time, 1 minute. Our counter, Lucas Kalafel.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. For our all-counter report, I have this Excel here, starting from the very top, going down to the bottom. For general evaluation, you have all of your crutch words and how many times each speaker said any of the listed crutch words here. We have a total of 57 crutch words in total. I think that cuts the total in half from the last time that I was in all-counter, where we had closer to 100. So we did very well in relation to that. As far as the frequency, our most common one was ah. Actually, it was with 38%, just beating ah. And we have how well everyone did with how many times they said a particular crutch word. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Impressive report. Thank you so much, Lucas. Grammarian Graham Cairns.
Madam General Evaluator, mine is a much more low-tech version, I have to tell you, pencil and a piece of paper. Those that use the word unanimity or one of its variants, Roxanne, Psychosure, Jim B, Jim G, Emily, Marianne, and Elizanne. If there's anybody else I missed, I do apologize. Natasha spoke about facilitating rather than just doing something. Beautiful use of a word. Emily, an extern, an intern but older. I love that phrase. Psychosure, every night I take a sabbatical and that is my solace. What a phrase to stick in my mind. Marianne spoke of her lens of gratitude. A couple of observations though. At one stage, Pamela used per se rather than for example. Per se actually means in and of itself, whereas for example means this is a case similar to. And one other, and I'm not even sure whether Birgit actually said irregardless or whether it was a clutch and then regardless, but there is no word as irregardless. It does not exist. So please expunge it from your vocabulary if you did use that. Some of the things that I like though, we used great, but we could also have used exemplary, excellent, extraordinary, used different words for the common clutch words. And Sony, I was so enraptured that I didn't actually take any notes, but 2 words I did jot down: magnificent and authentic in your presentation. That's my grammarian's report this evening, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Graham. Love your report. Video watcher, Roxanne Hussain.
I'm using the same technology as Graham. And those who used the theme in their background included Roxanne, Andy Byrne, Lou Brown, and I appreciated that he changed his background when he was speaking. Jim Barber, and Elizanne. Everyone but one has been using the frame beautifully. Everyone is centered nicely, except for Andre, your head top is a little cut off. There are a few lighting issues for Donna, Pamela, and Deborah Carr. And the standout has already left, so she won't get this call out. But Sony, her lighting was beautiful. The resolution of her camera is sharp, crisp, and on point. Her background, which was not virtual but real, was neat, clean, organized, and no distractions. She, although did not have the theme in her background, is my winner tonight.
Thank you so much.
Back to you.
Roxanne, wonderful report. Chat monitor, Natasha Venelison. Natasha?
Hello, everyone. I was just having a wonderful conversation with myself. I wanted you all, if you would, to take.
You muted yourself.
Okay.
Possibly spacebar.
I think so. Can you all hear? Okay.
Yes.
Let's try this again. Inside of the chat box, I've posted some chat highlights. The meeting highlights were as follows. Sony gave an outstanding presentation and was told by several. Chris, if you can make it work, it clicks. That's Chris Guild. Mr. Toastmaster, those of us at the end of our professional lives wish you well. We all wish you well, Mr. Toastmaster, during your final 4 days. And of course, the main attraction, the VTM Contest 2020, the registration information. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Natasha. Our vote counter, Jim Barber.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Yes, the results are in, and they are: Best Speaker this evening, Marianne Grady. Best Table Topics Response, Birgit Starmans. Best Evaluator, Angela Heath. Madam General Evaluator.
Yay, congratulations to all our best speakers in each session of the meeting. My time is up, and you probably unanimously agree with me that Saki Shore did a great job as our Toastmaster of the Day. Yay! Thank you so much, Saki Shore. Just one observation. The meeting was supposed to start at 7:47, but it was started later. And note to our president, this music thing before the meeting took some amount of time when it could have been used for speakers to practice their speaking skills. And also table topic session went over time. Please follow the agenda of the time of the agenda. So thank you, everyone. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster of the Day.
I think I'll take it from there. Thank you very much, Asil, as General Evaluator. Thank you very much, Saiki Shore, as Toastmaster of the Day. And we have no time. Isn't it a shame? Well, make sure you sign up. Make sure we see you on Saturday. If Mr. VPE, if you have any urgent messages, I suggest you send them by email. We have lots of speakers. Make sure you sign up for all the roles. We have a special event towards the end of December. And just go, enjoy yourself, express yourself. Make sure you connect. And we will see you, hopefully, on Saturday. Have a great week. And there you go. Let's
close out recording right there.